Hey guys, it's Richard from Grafting Dragon Fruits. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to prepare dragon fruit cuttings to root with different techniques. There are some main techniques that I use, and it's kind of like a staple to the dragon fruit community. So I'm going to show you guys all the different ways and how I do it, so that way you guys can get success on rooting your cuttings. So the most very common way to root your dragon fruit cutting is using a stem cut. And when I'm talking about stem cut, I'm speaking about how you cut the cutting where the stem kind of hangs out. You guys will see that when dragon fruit cuttings grow, they always have a stem and the branches will grow like this. And if they wanted to make a new segment, they would create another stem and then have another growth come. So I pay attention to that and always cut where the stem is. So that way I don't have to dry these. Once you do stem cuts, you can plant them in the soil right away. So it's very good technique to use for beginners, for anyone that just starting to get in dragon fruit and they don't know how to successfully propagate dragon fruit. This one is kind of like a foolproof way to always get your dragon fruit to root. And there are these two other ways where it takes a little bit more time, a little bit more technique, but it's still fairly simple to do. So I'm going to show you guys. This is called a flesh taper cut. And what I did was took my, pruner shears and cut it a certain way to get the flesh to taper itself and even remove about, maybe 2 centimeters of stem to let it dry out, because the stem is where the roots are actually going to start growing. So this is another common way to root, and a lot of people would like to just stick this part into water or even soil to get them to start propagating. Another method that I use is called the flesh cut. So the flesh cut is literally, you're going to go to a dragon fruit, cut it right into the segment of its flesh, and then you're gonna have it expose the flesh like this. So if you guys notice that it's very callous now, if you guys are using this method, you guys wanted to make sure that the flesh is starting to callus. You guys see how it's brown and it's starting to harden up. It's not wet, it's not sticky, it's callus. So that means it's ready to go into soil. So this takes about usually 4 to 5 days for it to fully callus like this. If you don't let it callus and you stick it in the soil while it's still wet, the dampness from the soil will start to infest into the fresh flesh, and then bacteria gets into it, starts to get yellow, moldy, and it starts to eat away at your cuttings. So try to avoid that. Be patient, let it callus like this. And if you guys see the two difference, this is what it looks like when it's not callus. I just made this cut earlier to show you guys an example of different techniques to do the rooting. But this one has been cut for over maybe 2-3 weeks already, and you can see it has a very nice callus. This is what you're looking for when you guys are planting dragon fruit, okay? So those are the different types of techniques that I use, and now I'm gonna show you guys how I do it and how to prepare it to get it to be like this, okay? So I have this Godzilla here that really needs to be pruned, right? I kind of let it go wild for the purpose of this video, so I'm going to show you guys how to do all those different types of cuts to prepare your dragon fruit for rooting, okay? So the first one I talked about was the stem cut. This is the easiest one to do and the most common way to do it. It's very foolproof. So when you guys are looking for the stem, it's very easy to find. They always usually grow at where the starting of the spikes are. So that would be considered a stem cut. This would be considered a stem cut. And I also have another one down here where I would consider this a stem cut. So that kind of shows you guys what a stem cut is. So if you guys were to prepare a stem cut, all you need to do is get the cutting from where the stem is at the very bottom base and snip. And just like that, in a matter of seconds, you guys have a new cutting ready to propagate and turn into another plant and to become a mother tree eventually. So that is a stem cut. So as you guys can see, it's just like how these ones I have here. So you don't have to wait for this. You literally can now put into soil, and the rotting and all that stuff won't happen because the stem cuts is already pretty callous. It's very woody. And so it's safe to go into soil right after you cut it, okay? It's almost better to plant it right away after you do a stem cut because the fresh cut makes it stimulate hormones to start producing roots. So do that right away. So now I'm gonna show you guys the flesh cut, okay? So the flesh cut, let's say why I would use this technique. Let's say I have only, let's pretend that there's only one cutting left on here, and I still want Godzilla to have nodes to continue to grow more branches so I can share with my friends, use it to propagate more and put it into my trellis and multiply them. Totally up to you what you want to do with it. But sometimes, you know, you have only one plant and you want 4 cuttings per pot, right? So this is one way to, a good way to multiply them. So what you would do, so I have these really nice shears here that I got from Modern Ripe, super awesome shears, cut super clean. I would just go, instead of doing a stem cut, now I would choose any area to do a flesh cut. I want about a good 6 inches because it just helps the cutting grow more quickly, strong roots, and it doesn't have the small growth. And literally I'll just go in, I'll do it this way so you guys can see, and cut right at the flesh, just like that. Make sure you have clean pruners when you're doing this. And then I'm just cutting all the sides so when I do take it off, it's gonna be nice and even. And just like that, we're gonna clean this part up right here just so that it heals nicely. You have a flesh cut. So now you just have to let this dry, and when it looks like this cutting that's already dried here, it's ready to plant. Do not put this cutting into soil or anything wet. Let it air dry outside for about 2 to 3 days in the shade. Do not put it in the sun to dry, okay? Make sure it's sitting in shade so that way it can callus without losing all of the hydration that it's already had in this branch, and then you will have great success with this one. So this is a flesh cut, and now I have this one here still. I did a flesh cut, and it's still attached to the main stalk, and new branches now can continue to grow. And if I want to, I can do another stem cut, flesh cut to keep multiplying this variety called Godzilla. All right, so the last one that I want to show you guys is this V taper cut. Not a lot of people use this, but some like it just because, you know, it's easier to put into soil. It exposes the cambium, and people will put it into water, about that much only into the water, and have them propagate roots out of this. So this is becoming a little bit more popular to people that use, but the very main ones is the stem cut and horizontal. But I'm gonna just show you guys another variation just in case in situational, you know, times if you want to use it, you can. So how to do that? Very simple. We're gonna use this cutting right here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna do the same thing, the flesh cut. So we're gonna go ahead and, you know, cut it right in the flesh, boom. And get a nice cut out of that, okay? So now we have this flesh cut. And I like to use this shear here because it has this natural curve. So when I use it, it's gonna cut really nice V's into it, okay? So you guys see me lining up here. Do not cut into the cambium. You're only gonna wanna cut the flesh. So just like that, boom. You see now it's kind of angled up and close to the center of the cambium. And you're gonna wanna do this to all the sides. So here's another one. And last side. If it's 4-sided, you can do the same thing, okay? So once it's all cut like that, what I like to do is kind of like cut in, don't cut all the way, twist it. And then now I can just pull this off. And you're gonna have a very nice cambium just popping out like that. Now you let it dry, make sure it turns into callus and it looks like that, then you can go ahead and plant it, okay? So that's the exact same thing I did with this other cutting here earlier. And this is called the taper cut. And you can expose a little bit of the cambium to help yourself, you know, not get the flesh wet, and this is gonna stimulate the cambium to just produce roots, and so nothing will kind of eat away at that flesh. But if you have it callus, you don't even have to worry about that, okay? So that is how I would prepare all of these cuttings to root. So now Godzilla is trimmed, it's doing good. I can let it be like that. It can grow more branches, but it's just those ways how I root dragon fruit. So it's very simple, very easy to do. And like I said, if you guys don't want to deal with the waiting and you want to just plant your dragon fruit, you can use these stem cuts. But sometimes we have these stem cuts and they're looking so nice on our mother trees, we don't want to remove them and we just want to take a little bit of a section, and that's another way you can use to get more cuttings and propagate it successfully. Okay guys, so I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and I hope you guys learned new ways and better ways to propagate your dragon fruits. If you guys did, please hit that like button below, And if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave in the comments section and I'll get back to you guys as quick as I can. So thank you very much for watching all of my dragon fruits. And if you guys want to see more grafting and dragon fruit videos of mine, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that way you guys won't miss a single thing. Have a wonderful day now. Bye guys.